This is part 7 of our AZ-900 journey, and if you're serious about passing, today's session will give you the clarity you need on key fundamentals. Question 36. A company wants to set up users in their Azure account. They have segregated their users into groups. They now want to ensure they set the right permissions for users and administrators accordingly. They need to manage the permissions effectively. Solution: you use Azure policies. Does this meet the goal? This question is testing whether Azure policies can manage user permissions effectively. The company needs to control what users and administrators can access. This is about access management, not resource compliance. The options are A, yes, B, no. Think of Azure policy like building codes for construction. They ensure buildings meet safety standards. But if you want to control who can enter different rooms in the building, you need a security system with keycards. Azure policy ensures resources meet standards, but RBAC controls who gets access. The correct answer is no, correct. Azure policies do not meet this goal because they serve a completely different purpose. Azure policy focuses on resource properties and configuration compliance, ensuring resources meet organizational standards and rules. It's designed to prevent users from creating resources that violate organizational policies, like requiring encryption on storage accounts or enforcing naming conventions. For user permission management, you need Azure RBAC, role-based access control. RBAC focuses on who can access what resources and what actions they can perform. RBAC controls user actions at different scopes and manages permissions based on roles assigned to users or groups. This directly addresses their need to set the right permissions for users and administrators. Why Azure policy doesn't work for this scenario. Azure policy evaluates resource state and properties, not user access permissions. Even if a user has RBAC permissions to create a resource, Azure policy can still block them if the resource doesn't meet compliance rules, but policy itself cannot grant or deny access to users. The two services work hand in hand. RBAC controls access, policy ensures compliance. If this video is helping you, support us by hitting the like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Question 37. A company has launched a set of virtual machines in their pay-as-you-go Azure subscription. After launching a set of VMs, they seem to be hitting a constraint of 20 vCPUs and are not able to provision additional virtual machines. Which of the following can be done to allow the company to provision more virtual machines? This question is about Azure vCPU quotas and limits. The company has hit their subscription's vCPU limit of 20 cores and needs to increase it to deploy more virtual machines. We need to identify the correct process for quota increases. The options are A, raise a support ticket with Microsoft. B, increase the limit in the Azure portal. C, increase the limit using the Azure CLI. D, increase the limit in Azure Advisor. Think of vCPU quotas like a credit limit on your bank account. When you hit the limit, you can't make more purchases until you get approval to increase it. Some increases are automatic, like online credit limit increases, while others require talking to a bank representative. Azure works similarly with different types of quota limits. The correct answer is raise a support ticket with Microsoft. Perfect. For vCPU quota increases, especially in pay-as-you-go subscriptions, you typically need to raise a support ticket with Microsoft. Azure enforces vCPU quotas at multiple levels: regional quotas and VM family-specific quotas. While some quotas are adjustable and can be increased directly through the Azure portal's My Quotas page, many vCPU limits require manual review and approval by Azure support teams. The support ticket process ensures proper validation of your needs and prevents abuse of Azure resources. You'll need to specify the new vCPU limit required, the regions where you need the increase, and the VM series you plan to use. Microsoft support typically approves legitimate business requests within hours to a few days. Why the other options are incorrect. Option B. While the Azure portal has quota management features, many vCPU limits require support ticket approval rather than self-service increases. Option C. Azure CLI can display quotas but cannot directly increase vCPU limits without proper authorization through support channels. Option D. Azure Advisor provides optimization recommendations but doesn't handle quota limit increases. It's a monitoring and advisory service, not a quota management tool. To get the free PDF or mock test, comment PDF or mock or both. I will share the downloadable link within next 24 hours. Question 38. A company is planning on hosting an application on a set of virtual machines. The virtual machines are going to be running for a prolonged duration of time. Which of the following should be considered to reduce the overall cost of virtual machine usage? This question focuses on cost optimization for VMs that will run continuously for extended periods. The key phrase is prolonged duration. This hints at workloads that are predictable and consistent, which opens up specific cost-saving opportunities. The options are A, premium disks, B, virtual machine scale sets, C, Azure Reservations, D, Azure resource groups. Think of this like buying a gym membership. If you plan to work out regularly for a whole year, getting an annual membership with upfront payment saves much more money than paying daily rates. Azure Reservations work the same way. Commit to long-term usage and get significant discounts. The correct answer is Azure Reservations. Absolutely correct. Azure Reservations are specifically designed for this scenario. When you commit to using virtual machines for 1 or 3 years, you can save up to 72% compared to pay-as-you-go pricing. Since the company plans to run VMs for a prolonged duration, they have predictable usage patterns that make reservations perfect. Azure Reservations work as billing discounts. You pay upfront or monthly for reserved capacity, and the discount automatically applies to matching VMs. You can choose between 1-year or 3-year terms, with 3-year commitments offering greater savings. The reservations don't affect your VM operations at all, they just reduce your bill. Why the other options don't reduce costs? Option A, premium disks actually increase costs compared to standard disks, though they offer better performance. Option B, VM scale sets help with automatic scaling and management, but don't inherently reduce costs. They're about efficiency and availability. Option D, resource groups are organizational containers that don't affect pricing. They're just for managing and grouping resources logically. Question 39. A company is planning on hosting an application on a set of virtual machines in Azure. They want to ensure that the application survives a region-wide failure in Azure. Which of the following concept needs to be considered to fulfill this requirement? This question is about business continuity when an entire Azure region goes down. The company needs their application to keep running, even if their primary region becomes unavailable due to natural disasters, power outages, or other major incidents. The options are A, scalability, B, disaster recovery, C, agility, D, elasticity. Think of this like having a backup office in another city. If your main office building becomes unusable due to a natural disaster, your business can continue operating from the backup location. Disaster recovery in Azure works similarly. If one region fails, your application can continue running from another region. The correct answer is disaster recovery. Exactly right. Disaster recovery is specifically designed to handle region-wide failures. Azure provides several disaster recovery solutions, like Azure Site Recovery, which continuously replicates your virtual machines to a secondary region. If the primary region experiences an outage, you can fail over to the secondary region and keep your application running with minimal downtime. Disaster recovery involves setting up your infrastructure across multiple Azure regions, creating recovery plans, and defining objectives like Recovery Time Objective, RTO, and Recovery Point Objective, RPO. Services like Azure Site Recovery automate the replication process and can orchestrate failover procedures to ensure business continuity during regional disasters. Why the other options don't address regional failures? Option A, scalability helps handle increased load by adding more resources, but doesn't protect against regional outages. Option C, agility refers to the ability to quickly adapt and deploy resources, but doesn't provide protection against region failures. Option D, elasticity allows automatic scaling up or down based on demand, but won't help if the entire region becomes unavailable. Question 40. A company is planning on moving to Azure. The senior management wants to get an idea on the cost that would be incurred when hosting resources in Azure. Solution. You recommend using the Cloudyn service to get the required costing of the resources necessary. Does this meet the goal? This question is about pre-migration cost estimation. The company hasn't moved to Azure yet and needs to estimate costs before making the decision. We need to identify the right tool for planning and estimation, not for managing existing resources. The options are A, yes, B, no. Think of this like planning a vacation. Before you book, you need a travel cost calculator to estimate flights, hotels, and activities. You wouldn't use your credit card statement analyzer, which tracks spending after you've already spent, to plan the trip. Similarly, cost estimation tools are different from cost management tools. The correct answer is no, correct. Cloudyn does not meet this goal because it's the wrong type of tool for pre-migration cost estimation. Cloudyn was a cost management and optimization service that Microsoft acquired and integrated into Azure Cost Management. However, Cloudyn was designed to monitor, analyze, and optimize costs for existing Azure resources that are already running, not for estimating costs before migration. For a company planning to move to Azure, they need estimation tools, not management tools. The right solutions would be the Azure Pricing Calculator, which lets you configure and estimate costs for planned Azure services before deployment, or the Total Cost of Ownership (TCO) calculator, which compares on-premises infrastructure costs with Azure costs to justify migration decisions. Why Cloudyn doesn't work for this scenario? Cloudyn requires existing Azure resources to analyze and generate cost reports. Since the company is still in the planning phase and hasn't deployed resources yet, there's nothing for Cloudyn to monitor or manage. It's like trying to use a fitness tracker before you start exercising. The tool needs activity data to provide insights, but there's no data yet to analyze. Great work making it through Part 7. If this helped, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss Part 8. Keep pushing. You're closer to AZ-900 success.